Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you something. How many times have you told yourself, I'll be happy when I reach that goal? Maybe it's a new job, a bigger paycheck, or hitting that fitness milestone. We've all been there. We've all looked at the finish line and thought that's where the joy is waiting. But here's the truth. What if I told you the real joy isn't in getting to the end of the race? What if it's in the progress, the steps you're taking every single day? I know it sounds crazy, but stick with me. If you've been struggling with the idea of success and happiness being tied to one big moment, I'm about to show you why that thinking is holding you back from experiencing true joy. By the end of this, you'll see that happiness isn't just a destination, it's in the process of growing, learning, and moving forward. So get comfortable because we're diving into the most exciting, life-changing truth you never realized. The joy is in the progress. When we think about progress, we often picture huge accomplishments, big wins, and clear-cut results. The truth is, those moments are rare and they're not always as frequent as we'd like them to be. But here's the thing, progress doesn't have to be a dramatic, life-altering shift to be meaningful. It's in the small wins, the tiny steps forward that often go unnoticed. So many of us are so focused on the big picture that we overlook the little victories that are happening every day. But those small wins are just as important as the grand ones. And sometimes they're even more valuable. The joy in progress is found in appreciating each one of those steps, no matter how minor they seem. Think about the first time you took action towards something you wanted. Maybe it was something as simple as starting a workout routine or making a phone call to chase after an opportunity. At that moment, you probably didn't see it as a huge win, but it was. You took that first step, and that's progress. That's where the joy begins. It's easy to get caught up in the idea that success only happens when you reach the top. But every step you take, no matter how small, is part of your journey. Each one of those steps counts. Every time you push yourself a little harder or go a little further than before, you're making progress. And when you start recognizing and celebrating those small wins, you shift your focus from what you haven't achieved yet to what you've already accomplished. Progress isn't always about achieving perfection. It's about moving forward, even if it's just a little bit. Let's face it, none of us are perfect. We all have moments when we fail or fall short of our expectations. But here's the beautiful thing about progress. It's not about being perfect. It's about trying, learning, and improving. Every time you stumble, you get back up stronger and wiser than before. And that's where the real joy lies. You're not just chasing an end goal, you're growing and evolving every day. The process is the reward. When you start to embrace the small steps, you begin to find joy not only in the outcome, but in the progress itself. Now, let's talk about something that can get in the way of seeing the joy in small wins. Comparison. We live in a world where it's easy to compare ourselves to others. Social media in particular is a breeding ground for feeling like you're not doing enough because everyone else seems to be ahead. But comparison is a trap. It blinds you to the progress you're making and makes you feel like you're not good enough. The reality is that everyone is on their own journey. And just because someone else is running their race at a different pace doesn't mean you're not making progress. Your path is unique to you, and the only comparison that matters is where you were yesterday versus where you are today. The joy is in your journey, and the more you focus on your own steps forward, the more you'll start to appreciate the small wins. One of the best ways to truly find joy in the small wins is by setting achievable goals. Rather than focusing on one huge goal that feels far out of reach, break it down into smaller, more manageable tasks. Each time you accomplish one of those tasks, celebrate it. By doing this, you'll begin to see how much you're really accomplishing, and it will fuel you to keep moving forward. You might be amazed at how much you've actually achieved when you take a moment to look back at all the little steps you've taken. The key is to recognize that each step, no matter how small, is part of the bigger picture, and each one deserves recognition. This shift in perspective will allow you to find joy in progress, even on the days when it feels like you're not moving as fast as you'd like. At the end of the day, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. And when you start to find joy in the small wins, you'll begin to see that the journey itself is the greatest reward. The idea that progress must be perfect in order to count is one of the biggest myths we hold on to. So many of us get caught up in thinking that unless everything falls into place exactly as we envision it, we failed. But the truth is, progress isn't about perfection, it's about consistency. Every time you show up, even when things aren't going exactly as planned, you are making progress. It's the daily commitment, the small actions you take that create lasting change. Think about it. How many times have you decided to start something new only to feel discouraged when you didn't get everything right? Maybe you started a new exercise routine and couldn't keep up with the intensity. Or maybe you decided to work on a project, but after a few days, it didn't look as perfect as you'd imagined. In those moments, it's easy to feel like giving up, but that's where consistency becomes your superpower. When you show up day after day, even if things don't look perfect, you're still making progress. It's those small, consistent actions that lead to big changes over time. They may seem insignificant in the moment, but trust me, they're building momentum. Perfection is paralyzing. It keeps you stuck because you're always trying to make sure everything is just right before moving forward. But here's the problem. Perfection doesn't exist. No matter how hard we try, things won't always go according to plan, and that's okay. What matters is showing up, learning, and improving. The key to finding joy and progress is accepting that mistakes, failures, and setbacks are part of the process. Each time you stumble, you have the chance to learn and grow, which is exactly what progress is about. Take a moment and think about something you've accomplished in your life. Was it easy? Was it perfect the first time? Probably not. Most of our biggest successes come after a lot of trial and error, a lot of bumps along the way. It's the act of continuing to push forward that eventually leads to success. And the joy that comes from that, it's not in the fact that you finally got everything right, but in the realization that you never gave up. You kept going. You stuck to your path even when things weren't perfect. That's what progress is about. Now, I'm not saying that we shouldn't strive for improvement or growth. Of course, we should always try to do our best. But the difference is that when you focus on consistency rather than perfection, you'll find that the process is much more enjoyable. Instead of constantly worrying about whether things are perfect or not, you'll learn to appreciate the small wins and the lessons that come with each step. The real joy in progress is found when you let go of the need for perfection and embrace the journey, knowing that it's okay to make mistakes along the way. One of the best ways to embrace consistency over perfection is to set realistic, achievable goals. When you break down your big dreams into smaller tasks, You're giving yourself the opportunity to focus on steady progress instead of trying to do everything at once. By making small, consistent improvements, you'll see that the gap between where you are now and where you want to be starts to close, not through perfection, but through persistence. And the best part, when you find joy in the progress and understand that consistency trumps perfection, you begin to develop a deeper sense of fulfillment. You stop chasing an idealized version of success and start to appreciate the daily effort it takes to move forward. The joy is in the journey, in showing up, in knowing that every step, no matter how imperfect, is getting you closer to your goal. That's how progress becomes something you can celebrate every single day. There's something magical about celebrating the process instead of just the outcome. Society has trained us to focus so much on the end result that we often forget the journey is where the real value lies. We're constantly looking ahead, chasing the next achievement, the next milestone. But when you take a moment to appreciate the process, that's where true fulfillment begins. Progress isn't just about getting to the end point. It's about the lessons learned along the way, the growth you experience, and the person you become in the process. When we set a goal, we often become so fixated on the outcome that we miss the small but significant moments along the way. The early mornings when you push yourself to keep going, the setbacks you overcome, and even the challenges that make you question whether it's all worth it. These moments are where growth happens, where you stretch beyond your comfort zone and push your limits. But here's the thing. If you're only focusing on the end result, you miss out on these powerful experiences. The joy is in recognizing that each part of the journey is valuable, whether you're moving forward with a full head of steam or crawling on your hands and knees. Take a moment and think about some of the toughest times in your life. At the time, you probably didn't think of them as progress. You were frustrated, confused, and maybe even doubted if you were ever going to get to the other side. But when you look back now, you see how much stronger, wiser, and more resilient you've become because of those struggles. And that's exactly why the process matters. Every tough moment, every challenge, every time you've fallen and gotten back up has shaped you into who you are today. When you shift your focus from simply achieving a goal to embracing the process, you open yourself up to discovering the richness of those experiences. You see that the moments you once saw as setbacks were actually building blocks for your growth. The truth is, when we place all our happiness in the outcome, we're setting ourselves up for disappointment. No matter how much we think a certain goal will bring us joy, it's often the pursuit itself that delivers the deepest sense of satisfaction. Think about a time when you achieved something you thought would bring you ultimate happiness. How long did that feeling last? A day? A week? Maybe a month? The thrill fades, and we're left looking for the next goal to chase. But when you learn to appreciate the process, when you can look at each step, each effort, and each setback as part of your growth, the joy becomes sustainable. The joy isn't fleeting because it's tied to the journey, not the destination. We also have to remember that the outcome is often outside our control. No matter how hard you work, things don't always turn out the way you expect them to. That's why the process is so important. You can't always guarantee the outcome, but you can guarantee that if you embrace the journey, you'll learn something, grow, and be better off for having walked that path. Progress, then, becomes a constant source of joy, not because you know exactly how it's going to end, but because you know you're getting better with every step. You celebrate the process. You stop defining your worth by what you achieve and start finding meaning in what you do every day. You realize that success isn't a destination you reach. It's a mindset, a way of living, and a way of approaching life's challenges. It's about enjoying each small victory along the way, recognizing that each moment brings you closer to who you're meant to become. When you embrace the process, you find joy not just in the result, but in the fact that you showed up, you kept going, and you're growing every single day. One of the most powerful ways to find joy and progress is by learning how to embrace the inevitable setbacks and failures that come along the way. Failure is often seen as something to avoid, something to be ashamed of. But in reality, failure is an essential part of the journey towards success. It's not something that should be feared. Rather, it's an opportunity to learn, adapt, and improve. The sooner we accept failure as a part of the process, the sooner we can start to enjoy the progress that comes with it. When you fail, it's easy to get discouraged. You might feel like giving up, thinking that you'll never get it right or that you're not cut out for whatever you're working toward. But here's the truth. Failure is a necessary part of growth. It's impossible to learn without making mistakes. Each time you stumble, you're gaining valuable lessons that can only come from experience. Think about the most successful people in the world. Do you think they got to where they are by never failing? Of course not. They failed time and time again. But what made them successful was their ability to keep going, to learn from their mistakes, and to use those failures as stepping stones to success. The key to finding joy in progress is understanding that failure isn't the opposite of success, it's a part of it. The fear of failure often paralyzes us, making it difficult to take risks or even attempt new things. We get caught in the trap of perfectionism, thinking that if we can't do something perfectly from the start, then we shouldn't try at all. But the truth is, waiting for everything to be perfect before taking action only holds us back. Success isn't about avoiding failure. It's about being willing to fail, learn from it, and keep moving forward. When you start to view failure as an opportunity rather than a setback, you free yourself from the fear of not getting it right. You become willing to take chances, make mistakes, and embrace the progress that comes from those experiences. Failure also teaches us resilience. Every time you fall and get back up, you're building emotional strength and mental toughness. The more you face setbacks and keep going, the stronger you become. And as you build that resilience, you start to realize that failure isn't as scary as it once seemed. In fact, you begin to look at failure differently. You start to understand that each failure is a lesson, and that lesson gets you one step closer to your goal. It's not about avoiding the fall. It's about getting back up faster each time. The other side of failure is that it often leads to unexpected breakthroughs. When things don't go according to plan, it forces us to think outside the box, to find new solutions, and to approach problems from a different angle. Many of the greatest innovations and successes in history were born out of failure. Think about all the famous inventors, entrepreneurs, and leaders who faced multiple setbacks. They didn't give up after their first failure, or their second, or even their 10th. They kept pushing forward, and eventually they found the breakthrough they were looking for. Progress is rarely a straight line. It's full of twists, turns, and detours. But each of those detours is leading you somewhere important. Even if it's not where you originally planned to go, When you embrace failure as part of your journey, you open yourself up to greater opportunities for growth. You start to see that every setback, every mistake, and every failure is just a temporary roadblock, not a permanent end. Instead of letting failure hold you back, you use it to fuel your progress. You develop a mindset that allows you to keep moving forward even when things aren't going perfectly. And in doing so, you not only find joy in the progress you're making, but you also develop the confidence and resilience to keep going no matter what obstacles come your way. When you learn to trust the process, you begin to unlock a deep sense of fulfillment that transcends any temporary highs or achievements. The reason trust is so vital to the journey of progress is because without it, you're left constantly doubting your next move, second-guessing every decision, and wondering if you're on the right path. Progress is not a straight shot, and it's impossible to predict what will happen next. Trusting the process, though, means having faith that every step, every misstep, and every detour is moving you in the direction you need to go, even when the end result is unclear. So many of us want instant gratification. We want results right away. And when we don't see things happening as quickly as we want them to, we get frustrated and impatient. We begin questioning if we're doing the right thing. But trust in the process teaches us that not everything happens on our timeline. Sometimes growth takes time. Sometimes the seeds you plant today don't sprout until much later. And sometimes the progress you're looking for isn't visible to the naked eye. But when you trust the process, you recognize that even if you can't see the results right now, every action you take is building momentum toward your goal. It's the act of showing up every day, doing the work, and trusting that over time, things will come together. This trust doesn't come easily for everyone, especially when you're in the thick of challenges. When you're facing obstacles, it's easy to become discouraged. You may feel like the path is leading you nowhere, or that you're taking one step forward and two steps back. But trust in the process means staying committed, even when the road ahead looks uncertain. It means continuing to move forward, despite the doubts that might creep in. Every successful person you admire, from entrepreneurs to athletes to artists, has had to trust the process through moments of uncertainty. They've faced the doubts, the failures, and the setbacks, but they believed that if they kept going, they would reach their destination. It wasn't about knowing exactly how or when it would happen. It was about trusting that it would. Trusting the process also helps you stay patient and resilient when things aren't going as planned. We often focus on what we can control. And when things don't unfold the way we expect them to, we feel like we've lost control. But what's more important than controlling the outcome is controlling your response to the journey. When you trust the process, you learn how to let go of the need to control every detail. You accept that there will be bumps along the way, and you focus on what you can control: your effort, your attitude, and your determination to keep moving forward. The beauty of trusting the process is that it allows you to celebrate progress in smaller, more meaningful ways. When you trust that the steps you're taking, no matter how small, are leading you in the right direction, you start to recognize the little victories along the way. You begin to celebrate those moments of growth, even if they don't immediately bring the end result you were hoping for. And in doing so, you find more joy in the journey. You appreciate the progress itself and not just the destination. Because at the end of the day, the destination will come, but the process is where the magic happens. When you let go of the need to have all the answers, when you learn to trust that the journey will unfold as it should, you gain a sense of peace and confidence in your ability to navigate life's challenges. Trusting the process doesn't mean sitting back and doing nothing. It means taking consistent action, maintaining faith, and having confidence that your hard work will eventually pay off. Even when things seem tough or uncertain, when you trust the process, you stay connected to the bigger picture and to the belief that all the small steps are adding up to something incredible. It's in this trust that you begin to find the joy in progress, realizing that every step, no matter how imperfect, is part of something much greater than what you can see in the moment. One of the most powerful aspects of finding joy in progress is the ability to reflect on how far you've come. So often we get so caught up in where we want to go that we forget to take a moment to look back at all the steps we've already taken. Progress is a continuous journey, but that doesn't mean we should only focus on the next milestone or goal. It's essential to acknowledge where you've been and the challenges you've overcome. This reflection not only gives you a sense of accomplishment, but it also motivates you to keep going, knowing that if you've made it this far, you can keep moving forward. It's easy to get stuck in the mindset of always looking ahead. You set a goal, and once you achieve it, you set another, always striving for something more. But when you don't take the time to reflect on your progress, it's easy to feel like you're not getting anywhere or that the work you're doing doesn't matter. In truth, every step forward is a victory. Every small achievement, every hurdle you've overcome, and every lesson learned is a step toward greater growth. Taking time to celebrate where you've come from helps you see that the journey is not just about the finish line. It's about the steps you take along the way. It allows you to recognize the small victories that often go unnoticed in the pursuit of the next big thing. Looking back at your progress also gives you a chance to see how much you've changed. It's incredible how different you are from the person you were a year ago or even a few months ago. Each challenge, each setback, and each success has shaped you into the person you are today. When you reflect on how much you've grown, it not only boosts your confidence, but it also helps you appreciate the journey. You begin to realize that you are capable of far more than you ever thought possible. And that's a source of great joy. When you see your growth, you also recognize the value of every step you've taken, even the ones that didn't seem significant at the time. Each moment has contributed to your development, and that in itself is something worth celebrating. This reflection process is also crucial because it helps you stay grounded. When you're always looking forward, it's easy to lose sight of your purpose or become discouraged when things don't go as planned. Reflecting on where you've been reminds you why you started in the first place. It reconnects you to your values, your goals, and your vision for the future. It serves as a reminder that the work you're doing has meaning and that even when you face obstacles, you have the strength and resilience to keep moving forward. Reflection gives you a sense of perspective, allowing you to see that the challenges you face today are just part of a larger. Another benefit of reflecting on your progress is that it helps you recognize patterns. You might notice things you've done in the past that have led to success, or areas where you've struggled and can improve. By taking the time to reflect, you gain insights into what works for you and what doesn't, and you can apply those lessons moving forward. Reflection isn't just about feeling good about what you've accomplished. It's also about learning from the past and using that knowledge to continue growing. Finally, reflecting on your progress gives you the opportunity to practice gratitude. It's easy to focus on what you don't have or what you haven't yet achieved, but when you look back at how far you've come, you start to appreciate everything you've gained. You recognize the people who supported you, the lessons you've learned, and the experiences that have shaped you. This gratitude fuels your continued progress, because when you're grateful for what you've accomplished, you become more motivated to keep going. It's the recognition that you're on the right path and that every step, no matter how small, has value. In the end, reflecting on your progress isn't just about feeling proud of what you've done. It's about gaining the clarity, motivation, and gratitude that will propel you forward. Every step you've taken is a testament to your growth and resilience. And when you take a moment to appreciate that progress, you unlock a deeper joy in the journey. You realize that the journey itself is just as important, if not more so, than the destination.